Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, brand new week. John Suntress with you. Couple show notes, questions, or comments about the show, reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. The YouTube channel, I've reached 1,000 subscribers, I promise. Live video streaming coming. I just have been very busy with radio work after having nothing. All of a sudden I've got tons of hours last week and this week. But things should be settling down in the days reaching Halloween. I've been doing some Weird Balloon episodes, and I hope you've been enjoying those, a little horror talk and a few other subjects as well. But as always, I thank you very much for listening to the commercials that precede Word Balloon. We've got just one more, and then we'll be getting to the show after one more spot. So as always, I appreciate your patronage and your attention as I try to present some interesting conversation with you at wordballoon.com every week. So one more spot, and we will start. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Well, this weekend I let everyone know, Friday, Brian Bendis made a big announcement in the New York Times that Superman would be revealing his identity of Clark Kent to the DC Universe. No longer a secret, not a hoax, not an imaginary story. As Brian says, good Lord, it happened so many times during the Silver Age, from the 50s all the way through the early 70s, every other month, Superman, I know you're Clark Kent, and now the world will know. Or I can't hide anymore behind this. I mean, it's so many crazy, wonderful Superman covers over the years covering this thing. And again, imaginary stories, dreams, hoax, Superman robots and Clark Kent robots saving the day. Not anymore. I mean, they seem to be very serious, both Brian and DC Comics, that this will be the new status quo moving forward for Superman, his family, and friends. What does this mean for the DC Universe? We discuss it in detail on today's Word Balloon, and I think you're going to enjoy this Bendis tapes in particular. I know there are people who have initial reactions of, no, wrong, shouldn't do it. If anyone needs to keep an identity, it's Superman. How else does he protect the people closest to him? Brian has an answer for all that. And you may agree or not agree, but as he says, this is just the initial incident. The real story is how the DC Universe, good and bad people, react to this news. The average citizens, how they react. It sounds like a very interesting new status quo for the Man of Steel. Brian let me peek at Superman 18 and Superman 19 from a script standpoint, a little bit of the cover art and some other things. There's also going to be two different one-shots coming out after Superman 18, Superman Heroes and Superman Villains, written by Matt Fraction and Greg Rucka. I think that's very interesting as well. And this is going to be very interesting. I mean, we all remember Civil War, the comic book version, when Spider-Man revealed his identity to the world, and things were pretty interesting for a few months. I mean, God, Spider-Man going to the jail block and challenging the Kingpin after the Kingpin takes a hit on Aunt May, and she's in a coma from being shot. And Spider-Man beats the shit, or I should say, Peter Parker goes to the jail and beats the shit out of the Kingpin and says, this is what will happen if any of you try to come after my family. Fantastic. Great story. But they put the genie back in the bottle. DC says no. I mean, at least this is their stance now. So I think, at the very least, for the next couple of years, this is the status quo. And I hope that it is a permanent change, because it does open things up for the character, and I think we perceive him in a different way. I love Clark Kent. I'm a massive Clark Kent fan, and I hope to be talking to some Bronze Age writers who wrote incredibly great Clark Kent stories. As Brian says, it's been 80 years with this status quo. Maybe it's time for a change. Hear him out. Read it for yourself when it comes out in December, but enjoy this conversation with Brian Bendis, the Bendis tapes, on today's Word Balloon. Brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you greatly, League, for your support via Patreon. If you want to support Word Balloon and sponsor it, Word Balloon is free. But if you like it, if you can swing a little cash and think is it worth $1 a month to you? Is it worth the price of a comic book a month to you? I hope so, and I hope you enjoy what I try to present here at Word Balloon every week. I try to give you really interesting conversations that go beyond what is described in the preview pages in the Diamond catalog, or some of the even the stories that you get in prose on the comic book news blogs and stuff. I think Word Balloon always has a different presentation, and we get a little more inside with the people that I interview here at wordballoon.com. So if you like it, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/wordballoon, or wordballoon.com, and click on the Patreon ad. That will take you to my Patreon page. Thank you greatly for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Word Balloon is also brought to you by Aftershock Comics. They're making news themselves. Hell, they call themselves, or they're calling this year the year of reading dangerously, and they've got a murderer's row of creators that put out incredible books every month. I mean, people like my friends, like Cullen Bunn and Tim Seeley and Phil Hester, and new people that I've met in the last few months, like Chris Sabella and Stephanie Phillips, and of course Marguerite Bennett and Garth Ennis. Unbelievable creators that are putting out genre-bending books that entertain us every month. Joe Pruitt is bringing back a lot of great stuff that he's collected from Caliber and Desperado and now at Aftershock in his horror anthology Shock, one of my personal favorites, and a subject that I want to cover with Joe hopefully before Halloween wraps up. But don't take my word for it. Go to their website. You'll find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books, how to order them through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. All right, a couple show notes to start off with. I did just see Brian in Portland. So about the first 10 or 15 minutes are us rehashing how Portland went for me, and also hanging out at the Bendis house. It was hilarious. He's got 5 kids. They're all at great ages in terms of being entertaining, whether they realize it or not, but very nice kids. I mean, as I say, who's this creepy guy that's coming to stay with us for 5 days? Not only that, Elisa Bendis was incredibly kind as well. We had great conversations. All that's covered in the first part of the conversation. Then we get into the meat of Superman. However, very early on, we get sidetracked on Ad Astra and some Joker talk. Brian hasn't seen Joker. I couldn't help but bring up the opportunity of telling him how the character of the Joker always scared me, and I give a Cesar Romero encounter story that I've probably told on Word Balloon before. He never heard it. But then also, Brian didn't like Ad Astra. I did. And he really wanted to interrupt the Superman conversation to talk about Ad Astra. And it's at a rather crucial point of, doesn't Superman need the Clark Kent identity to protect the people closest to him? If he's going to continue doing what he does as Clark but only as Superman, doesn't that make his relationship with the civilians different? I mean, believe me, man, when I heard about all this, I had the same questions that a lot of us are likely having digesting this news before we read the story. Brian also let me read the story. So after these interludes, we get back and we pretty much are talking about Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, which is debuting soon. John Kent's role is obviously about to change, and he's going to spend a lot of time in the 30th century and learn how to be a hero at the hands of the Legion. It's going to be very interesting. And some immediate changes in some of my favorite Legionnaires as far as their character goes. Brian talks a bit about that as well. So it's a well-rounded Bendis tapes as always. But I try to edit and kind of put all the Superman stuff together, but then, the Ad Astra and Joker stuff kind of hangs there. And I think it's okay. So it's an organic conversation. It has a couple detours, but believe me, I still have my thoughts and my questions about this move. Right there. And as soon as we're done talking about Ad Astra and the Joker, we get right back to our Superman conversation. So hang with us. Enjoy this talk, a new Bendis tape with Brian Michael Bendis on today's Word Balloon. And we're back. It's a new Bendis tapes. And isn't it funny? We spent 5 days together and didn't record a second of podcast.
At first I had regret about that, and then I kind of loved it.
I did too. Oh, that's really nice, man, because I felt the same way. It's like, something, this is like a nice chill hang.
I like originally it was going to be your base of operations, and then it became like a nice just a chill. And I think at the end of the day, you needed that more. So we could podcast any day.
It truly must have been in my face, Brad, because I really did. And God, even losing the trauma of losing my wallet right before coming back, I really was like, all right, it is what it is. It's fine. You're having a good time. Don't let it bum you out. Everything will be fine, and everything's replaceable and stuff. Just relax, and everything was great, man. No, it was fun. I felt like a mother-in-law staying with you as long as I did.
So John, so last we spoke, John came to stay with us at Rose City Comic Con. First time you've ever stayed with us, right?
Yeah.
And so you got the full effect of the Bendis Adams family and the full household. And literally every day you had some drama. You had you had your wallet. You're just into this every day. So I enjoyed the watching you enjoy what my lifestyle is, which is completely different than yours. So you're watching me like a National Geographic special.
Totally. Absolutely, man. No. We're in the Bendis' natural habitat. It's true. It's totally true. And it was funny as hell, man. And no, watching you in your office and stuff and the big screen. And God, Alyssa couldn't have been sweeter. I mean, seriously, she's amazing. And what you guys were really, it was so much fun. Your kid, I mean, here's the creepy old man that's hanging at the house. What the hell's he doing here? But the kids were great. They all.
You saw it's constant bedlam, so they just deal with it. The funniest thing that happened was I didn't do the show, but Friday night, Dan DiDio and Bob Harris came to town. And one of the things they were doing was getting together with us to have serious powwows about the future, right? And so they came up to the house, and it was me, Matt, and Greg, right? Yep. And we're having a fireside chat, and then you come down the driveway, and I forgot to tell them you were staying with us, and it was journalist, run!
All right, what the hell's he doing here? I had no idea this was going to happen. It was fantastic, honestly. And I should have had my notepad out and been like, I'm sorry I'm late. What did I miss? Go on.
No, but it's funny. We had so discussed it beforehand, and you so went to your room.
Oh, yeah.
Like a teenager who had stayed out too late.
Hey, man.
It was very funny.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, dude, I'm not an asshole. I'm seriously, I am so not there to be Jay Leno in the closet listening to the NBC execs, and stuff like that. It's no, man, I respect.
No, but I did one of my favorite things is that Bob Harris, who is editor-in-chief of DC Comics, he watched you go in the house, and the look on his face was, does John Sutras live here? But he never asked it, and I just watched him never ask me.
That's fine. I've had so few encounters with Bob, and it was nice to really kind of have 2 seconds to meet him. And like I said, I'm like, hey, I'm not here. Don't worry about a thing. I'm heading to my room, so maybe that's why Bob was shocked. But yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was hilarious. No, it was great. And yeah, man, no, that's cool. Hey, I always say journalism with a small J. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that.
I know. But still,
I know you know. Yeah, you trust me and everything. It's cool. But I also can appreciate them. I mean, it would have been worse if it was Heidi McDonald, frankly. Or Rich Johnson,
was this your first trip to Portland?
Yes.
Ever?
Yes.
And so what was your Portland takeaway? It's very different from Chicago. So
100%. Well, it reminded me, and it's been a while since I've been to Seattle, but it reminded me of a mini Seattle in the best ways.
Yeah.
And it's so more concentrated in terms of the area. But God, the nightlife looked amazing. Friday night I was kind of hanging out and had dinner with Matthew Rosenberg and Charles Soule.
Nice.
And got to know Matthew that much more. And Charles is a friend. And Charles's brother was with us as well. We had a great time. And went to Voodoo Donuts. Went to Powell's. Spent 2 hours at Powell's. I mean, that's the thing, man. And that's why I asked
you. Going to church.
Yeah, well, and honestly, that's why I really appreciated you letting me hang for those extra days beyond the convention, because I'm like, oh no, I really want to get a sense of the city and stuff. And I went down to Helioscope and hung with Lieber and Jeff Parker and a couple of the other creators over there, and that was a lot of fun. And God, Oming and Taki sent me emails like, we didn't know you were in town. We totally would have come over. And I'm like, well, I figure you guys are dealing with, your own stuff. And that I figured I'd see everybody at the convention.
Sure.
And I still did run into people, and I don't even know if I mentioned to you, I saw Diana Schutz, and I love Diana. And
I love Diana.
Yeah, and she's talking to Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon. And I'm talking to Diana, and I was going to introduce myself to the brothers, but I'm talking mostly to Diana. And Fabio's like, John Sutras? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, hey, man, we listen to Word Balloon all the time. And I'm like, and he goes, have we been on? And I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, it's been years. But when they wrote their graphic novel about, I want to say, the Argentinian history and everything, and that great, I think it was called Two Brothers. That's when they were on.
Oh, I know. I read it. It's great.
Oh, it's amazing. And that's what I told him. I said, no, you guys were on there. I'm like, guys, that is so nice. I mean, I'm not sitting around listening to Brazilian podcasts. I'm like, you're, and he goes, no, you do a good job. I'm like, guys, you are so welcome back anytime. And they laughed and they go, well, when we come up with something new, we'll call you. I'm like, all right, great.
You got something new cooking.
Oh, good. Good to hear. Because, no, they're the best, man. And, Matt and Kel, I saw them briefly, at your powwow, but also saw them at the show. And Greg and Jen Van Meter, who I love so much. And, yeah, man. And
you have a full Portland.
Yeah, Ibrahim Mustafa. I mean, yeah, you know who I didn't see? I'll tell you, it's easier to say who I didn't see, and I was bummed. Shrek, Bob Shrek, and Matt and Wagner. Because Wagner's really been an incredible friend for years, and I'm blown away by that because, again, you and I were reading his stuff when we were...
you know what I feel about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, and Shrek is an incredibly good dude, too. And I just really wanted to, just touch base and say, hey, Shrek's never been on. I wanted him to come back, or come on. But I certainly want Matt to come back, too. So, yeah, they're kind of the only Portland... And then, again, they're up in Seattle or whatever, but Taki and Mike, So, yeah.
Well, Matt... You're talking about Matt Fraction, right?
Well, Wagner, I didn't see,
Wagner,
but and I only saw Fraction briefly, a couple times at Rose City and at your place and everything. So,
show alert! I think that your next guest has to be Mike Allred.
I would agree.
He has a couple of projects that he sent me that are just phenomenal.
I meant to. I tried to get to his table, but he was constantly busy, of course. And he and Laura were there, set up and everything, but I didn't have a chance to say hello to them. I did see Terry Dobson and Rachel. I saw them. And Terry hasn't been on Word Balloon yet, but we've been dancing around this for the last few months. Yeah, it was great, man. No, and I mean, and Rose City's a fun show, but really I should come when it isn't convention time and everyone can hang a little bit more. Yeah,
it's a different vibe. Sure. Tomorrow night. Brian Cunningham from DC is coming up, and we're gonna have a real Friday night dinner like we've been doing for years, which is basically everybody you just mentioned is invited to come over and just hang out and chill and bitch about comics. I mean, talk about comics, and it's really great, and some really magical stuff has happened at those Friday nights. So I'm excited to have one again. We haven't had one in a while because of all the crazy.
Sure. Well, and I know, is it in December that you're going to...
In fact, as we speak, I'm watching Elisa is home making chili for 1 million people.
Wow. Nice.
She brings the love.
Elisa, all the best.
She hasn't done enough today. Now she's making chili for 80 people.
I made her sit down and tell me why she likes Star Trek Discovery. I'm like, you're not leaving this couch until we have this conversation. Come on. So, no, it's hilarious, man. No, she's great.
That
seriously.
Podcast should have aired. That should.
I know. Well, honestly, I did tell her when I was staying with you, and I meant it. I really do want to have her on to talk about running the biz.
Yeah,
like what she does in the business capacity.
It's so not her way, but we talked about it after you left, and she's inching closer towards it.
Good. I hope so, man. And of course, hey, if you're, she's. I mean. God, now I'm blanking. One of your collaborators. God damn it. The guy who did Young Avengers with Heinberg, the artist.
Chung.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy Chung. I love Jim. And Jim's like, I don't want to be on the, I don't want my voice on the air. I
gotta say, there's a lot of guys like that.
Totally. Alex Believe, he's like that.
But yeah, Alex. Ryan is someone who I'm coaxing into the social media spotlight, not to embarrass him by saying that. They're just, there's some artists that are just wired to internalize, and that's all right. That's okay. 100%. Not everything,
No.
Not everyone has to be out everywhere. So, and also they specifically want to express themselves through their art and only through their art.
Yeah.
And I respect and often admire it. You know what I mean?
Sure. And even
someone who can.
In a benign example, Mike Norton, who does put himself out there and stuff, both social media and everything else. But the first 2 years that I knew him, I'm like, are we friends? And I hope we are, but I couldn't tell because he was kind of aloof. And literally, He hugged me and he's like, John, I sit in front of my draft board by myself 90% of the time. And he goes, sometimes I just forget to be social. And I'm like, oh, Mike, and then seriously, ever since then, and he's a good friend. I love Mike. He's an amazing guy.
It's a beautiful mixture of people who just assume everyone hates us. Yeah, no, I am for so many years, I want to say the victim or the self-victim of thinking someone hates me only to find out not only do they not hate me, but I'm way off. And to the point now where I only share who I think hates me with Matt Fraction so he could say, stop it.
Hilarious. Outstanding. That's
but where it comes from is that we are a group of people wired to express ourselves only through our work, and it's very hard to get to the normal social cues.
Understood. Well, yeah, and
I get to a Zen place and just accept the love when it comes.
And that was really nice, by the way, Rose City. Again, not to make it all about me, but it really was like tons of listeners came up. Another podcast is like, hey, can we talk to you? I'm like, of course. Jesus, that's a really nice compliment. I'm like talking to creators.
Absolutely the best part of doing shows like that, and it's pure love, and it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, and for someone to go out of the way to say something is always blows my mind. It always blows me away.
I completely agree, man. Well, again, it was a great experience, and thank you for helping making it so. I mean, God, you guys were ridiculously kind and wonderful hosts, and it was a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Phew.
So. Well, you just made some news this week.
We have big news. As we're talking, we're hours away from the New York Times about to drop a culture bomb.
Yeah.
And it's been hinted at online, so it's not going to be a giant surprise, but the surprise will be that it's real. So you're gonna for people who've been reading Superman, a lot has gone on in his life. A lot of actual change has happened. A lot of it reflective of Dan Jurgens' run, where a great many changes started. And, everyone who's ever read a Superman comic has always wrestled with this. It's a joke that Seinfeld made that joke 30 years ago about, how can Jimmy Olsen not tell it's Superman when he goes to the bathroom and puts his hands on his hips? And so it always hovers over, the thing. And, it's just the character got to a place where that truth and justice, except for that one truth, let me take it back. When I was writing Ultimate Spider-Man and I got to issue 13 of Ultimate Spider-Man, my argument was, why would Peter lie to Mary Jane? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Why wouldn't he tell her the truth? He doesn't. It's something he needs to share with her. It's who he is, right? And he wouldn't even know what the mistake was, right?
Right.
And I wrote down, and I think we talked in interviews about how it always feels like Clark is lying a little bit. Right?
Sure.
And to protect something, and we all do it, and we all respect it, and we identify with it because we're now in a different world, and he's a different man who's been through different things. And we talk about it in the script that, the young man who grew up and came to Metropolis to make his way versus the father and husband and, superhero icon is a different person with different responsibilities to himself and to the world. And changes happened in both his relationship to his father and his son, and those are massive things.
His father Jor-El and his
yes, both of those relationships shifted,
yes,
and dramatically, and that changes, and that a person steps back and thinks about who they are and what they're proud of and what they want their energy to represent in the world. And I think a lot of people can understand that truth a little bit, hey, I'm not the same person I was, and that choice I made back then may not be the right choice for me now. And I brought this up to everybody. This happened all relatively recent. I was either we're here. Like this feels real to me. And if you feel it too, and it reflects a lot of changes that are coming as well. And I was just kind of blown away that DC trusted me with this, because we agreed it's a forever thing.
Wow.
And I know it's comics, and but
forever can last 3 months.
Yes,
only.
but
I hear what you're saying.
Here's my argument to that. And it's funny, when this got hinted at like a month ago online, when like the first solicitation, people immediately hit me with, they've done this before. And I'm like, yeah, they did it on every cover of every Superman comic from the 1950s to 1972. So yes, I know.
Yes, they did. Not an imaginary story, not a hoax. Go on. Yeah.
Like, it was so funny. Like, the people think I don't know that. Yeah, but in this, and I even know, that Lois had outed him.
Right, during New 52. Yes.
Story. This is a very different story. All right, and I will say, for those who worry about its value, that we gave this a lot of deep thought, and I reflected back on the choice we made in Daredevil, which is similar in that the truth comes out, but obviously in Daredevil it happens to him. He is a victim of something that changes his life. That storyline went on for almost 15 years. They didn't put that back for a long, long time.
Fair enough.
So of the publishing history of Daredevil, it is a percentage of the story of Daredevil is that story. And I'm not to be braggy, but only to amplify that's a long time. That's generations of Daredevil readers. That was the truth of Daredevil. So for people who want to compare, that's what I'll compare it to, that we did it in Spider-Man and we did something similar in Daredevil to take the story into new and impossibly exciting situations that we couldn't without it. Right? And for Daredevil, this is the only character this could happen to. It really felt like this is the character that's always been like dancing on the edge, right?
Right.
And always like telling way too many women
who he
is, right? And it just it was really set up, it's gonna go. And almost you can even argue that Matt wanted it to happen, right? And so with Clark, it's a much different story. And it's him owning his truth. And I've been talking a lot about how, Clark is a character that a lot of stuff has been put upon him. A lot of responsibility has been thrust on his shoulders, and not a lot of choices have been offered to him. Right. And he accepts it, and that's what makes him a hero. But now that, he's more evolved, this idea of him owning his truth is kind of a beautiful thing. And it also opens us up to hundreds of new story possibilities for Superman and all of his friends and antagonists. Every relationship in the DC universe now changes. Everything. All right? Everything you think you've seen is different.
Yep.
All right? We're going to have emotional, real truth. Heroes are going to have a complete change in look in how they do things. Villains are going to have a complete change in how they do things. People are going to shift alliances. People are going to change course completely. It's an emotional hurricane that's coming through, and it's pretty exciting. And I'll say, I let you read this before we could talk, so you kind of had a better sense of what it was.
Yes, and I appreciate it.
Because this is a story that it's got to be, I'm not to interrupt, but it's in the details, right? It just is.
No, I agree with
that. You got to read it, and there's a bad version in your head. Sure. Of course there is. But that, we have something to show you.
Agreed. And well, if we're putting our cards on the table, it's okay. I hope it's okay. I mean, you told me about this when we were hanging out in Portland, and I had the initial, without seeing the story, responses that I think a lot of readers are going to have in terms of, because, and really, let's unpack some of what you've just been talking about.
Please.
He has responsibilities, and one of the reasons, there are people like Matt Murdock and Steve Rogers. You can make the argument that Steve Rogers can be Captain America and Steve Rogers because of what he represents. And
Right.
and Bruce's secret identity has specific needs in Gotham and the way that he wages his battles.
100%.
But also, like you said, there are people that Superman needs to protect, and that was also man. I'll tell you, the speech to the people. It's a very compelling argument, and it's going to inspire.
It's got to be in the work. It can't be in the podcast, right? It's got to. I have to. Yeah. Superman has to make the case.
Oh, absolutely, and that's fine, and absolutely, people will read it. It's going to inspire conversation, and that's great and good story. I mean, and we'll talk about it later. But I have my problems with the Joker movie. But that said, it's inspiring some really interesting conversations. And I keep spinning around the movie, so I must like it a bit more than I initially thought. We'll get into that later.
I haven't seen it yet, and I'm dying to.
Okay, then we won't talk about it until you see it, obviously.
I got sucked into seeing Ad Astra.
I loved Ad Astra. You didn't like it, obviously.
Are you kidding me?
I loved it. I swear. And, Brian, I understand because
stop the podcast.
Rob Burnett, I know. Rob Burnett, the Trek expert that I have on all the time, the guy who directed Free Enterprise, he's an astronaut nut as well. He hated it too. And I find that fascinating. We'll talk about Ad Astra later. I'm happy to.
No, I'm not. We're doing it right now. Listen.
This Superman story interrupted by an Ad Astra break. Please.
What did you like about it?
Honestly, first of all,
Brad Pitt's very good in it, and it's very well lit. So I know when I know when to say it's a piece of shit.
It's very well lit. I agree with you.
It's beautifully lit.
Oh no, it's a beautiful looking movie. I like the way they extrapolated where NASA may go. I was hoping they'd call it Space Force because it really did feel like Space Force more than NASA, and that's fine. But I like, and then again, as a movie buff, I am fast. I think it was an interesting choice to be an opposite mirror image of 2001.
Yes.
And what I liked was in 1968 when Kubrick made 2001, there were a lot of mysteries still left in space. And the subtext of Ad Astra is bad news. We know what's out there. And there are going to be no space angels or supermen to save us. It's up to us. And I liked it from the airport on the moon looking like it could have been the airport in Ames, Iowa.
Right.
And I love that. And I the boringness of it. I love the moon buggy. I love just the boringness of the airport is what I mean. And obviously you think
I know what you mean.
But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like he was readdressing things that are in 2001 where there were legitimate mysteries still to be learned.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I love the moon buggy fight with the ray guns. I thought that was fantastic. I bought the space pirates because we've got all these treaties that say the moon can't be owned by various countries. It really has to be open territory. So, of course, all the corporations are going to come in, and you're going to see DHL at the airport and Subway and everything like that. And I also buy that there are likely nomads that are hanging out that are more, carjackers, basically moon buggy carjackers. And as opposed to space pirates. I thought that was fun.
You are being so kind.
Yeah.
God bless you. That I feel like I don't even need to follow up other than to say that it is the Heart of Darkness.
Sure, absolutely.
But imagine you get there and, no big deal. I think Sam Humphrey said, he goes, it's a Heart of Darkness, but, super chill. No biggie.
I don't know.
And I feel in my heart that it was a movie that we did not get to see, that Donald Sutherland disappeared. Right? He disappears.
He had the heart attack when he was in the movie.
No, he had the heart attack. Bill, that literally, that was something happened. That was a recut. Right?
I suppose. Yeah, probably. Maybe. A trim at least.
There was a lot of big name actors that had almost no scenes that made you go, oh, there was another movie.
Well, that's true. Leaf Tyler.
Once Russian Doll showed up,
space and
you go, oh, okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was talking over you. I was talking about Leaf Tyler, obviously having nothing to say.
Oh, no. I meant Russian Doll, Natasha Lyonne.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
Right? Okay, she's not in the movie to hand him a piece of paper.
That's true. Interesting.
I think there were aliens in the movie. I think they looked like shit and they bailed on them. That's what I think.
Hilarious. Wow.
I really do.
Is it based on a novel or is it an original story?
It's an original story, and I guess, I have, like everybody, everyone has, like, their parental issues,
Sure.
But, like, I like this, Dad, let me go, Dad stuff. It's
hilarious.
I know there's a lot of people that have that, and it's really,
sure. No, it sucks. Absolutely, man. Well, my dad and I had a great relationship.
You're not going to mention the monkeys? See?
I love the space chimps. I love that. I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was like, what the hell? And then he saw the space monkey flying at you. What's that?
This is how I got sucked into it. Someone mentioned pirates and space monkeys, and I went, I got to see it. It's not. No.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I was riveted. And believe me, I've heard a lot of people go, it's boring, it's dumb, it let me down. And I
wasn't bored, and I was visually entertained, and I'm working in a lot of sci-fi, so I appreciate anybody's choices, right?
Sure.
Anyway. All right, back to Superman.
All right, we now get to rejoin Superman already in progress. All right, so back to my point, which was, for people who don't remember, that, he's got to protect, what's that?
Never. I think you're going to cut all that out.
No, not totally. No, I'm thrilled that you wanted to talk about Ad Astra. It's the last thing I expected you to mention. I figured you had already, obviously with the kids, you're not going to take the kids to see Joker. Maybe Olivia, but maybe not.
No, they saw it. They didn't care for it. No,
London in particular.
No, you're laughing because you saw my kids are scared of clowns. Like they're like Pennywise. It's just constant. So my daughter comes up to me and goes, so it's just Pennywise until Halloween's over? I go, yeah. She goes, all right. Everywhere you go, there's a Pennywise.
Oh, sure. Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. And no, okay, hey, man, right. I'm such a wuss. Cesar Romero scared the shit out of me when I was 4 years old. And I actually got to tell him that. I met him. He made a sitcom pilot that didn't fly with Ann Gillian. I mean, what an awesome sitcom to see. Yeah, I know. 1982, Fred Silverman production, met Fred Silverman.
As soon as you said Ann Gillian, I knew it was 1982. And I knew it was
of course it was, exactly. So, it was called The Rainbow Girl. She was in a blue-collar family in like a blue-collar city and would get to sing on a local polka show. And Cesar Romero was the polka band leader.
It's funny. You didn't know I was going to bring up Ad Astra. I totally knew you were going to bring this up. What are the odds?
Wait, it gets to Caesar. So anyway, I get to meet Cesar Romero. I didn't get to meet Ann Gillian, but I got to meet Cesar Romero. And I'm like, I got to tell you, man, when I was 4 years old, I literally could not stay in the room when you were on Batman. You scared the hell out of me. And he laughed. He's like, well, I was supposed to scare you. And he shook my hand. He could have been cooler. We took a picture together. I wish I had it. My asshole stepmother has it. There's my family issue. But anyway, so yeah, man, I get being freaked out by clowns totally. And also I really like the Tim Curry hit. I didn't watch the two movies. I'm not really built for horror. I'm and especially like real horrors in the world and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't need that. That's okay.
I'm with you there. So, it's just too much real terror going on. Like,
but I am.
I don't need to be wound up.
But I am interested in your thoughts on Joker when you see it because.
Oh no, I'm upset I haven't seen it, and I'm trying to get to the theater. So hopefully very soon.
Sure.
Obviously for work and for my own cinematic education.
Well, yeah, because honestly, even with my mixed feelings, I'm still encouraging people to see it because it's inspiring conversation. And as I told you, much like your story choice with Superman and Clark Kent, because he does have a responsibility to these human beings that he's been around. I mean, obviously when his parents were alive, and obviously his mother is still, right? Martha's still around, right? Jonathan's gone, but Martha's still around?
Doomsday Clock spoilers.
Oh, interesting. Dun, dun. Interesting.
I just have to. That's not an answer either way. It's a Doomsday Clock spoiler.
That's great. That's very interesting.
So I can say that clearly. No, I know sometimes when we say spoilers, I see people respond and they don't get exactly what I was referring to. So I just want to make clear it's someone else's spoiler, so I want
Fair
to
enough.
be respectful.
All right.
And Jeff has been working on Doomsday Clock since before I joined DC.
I'm hip.
So,
Yes.
I'm
We all know.
I want to be there for the landing.
All right, fair enough. Well, regardless, so and even the Daily Planet core. So I mean, he has friends and loved ones that he needs to protect, and doesn't the choice of revealing make them these open targets?
Yes. And the script answers that. And it was funny. It was the first question at DC, and then I brought up I hadn't seen an issue of Superman where Superman in costume hadn't been at the Daily Planet or with Lois, Clark, and Jimmy. So there isn't a person in the world who doesn't know that they're his friends. There isn't a person.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Even as Superman, I suppose that's true.
There's literally no difference in their relationship to the public between. In fact, they know they're friends with Superman more than they know they're friends with Clark Kent.
That's true.
So if you wanted to get to Jimmy, that was how you get to Jimmy. Like, you want to get to Clark and Jimmy, it was through Superman, not Clark.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you.
I know. See, here's the thing: is that Superman being the first superhero, and with that comes a lot of the first. I hate to use the word tropes because it's overused and used incorrectly.
Sure.
But the tropes of the genre were invented around this character.
Very true.
So for this character to jettison one of the biggest ones is shocking and enormous. And I just think a giant reflection of the world we live in now. I really do. And it's funny, if you talk to whoever you talk to, and I've had the opportunity now to have this on my plate for a few months. So I've talked to people from many different ages and groups. And if you talk to someone in their 20s or 30s, the Marvel Cinematic Universe created a different mindset of what a superhero and a secret identity is. None of the Avengers have secret identities. It's not a thing. And the only one that had one was Peter Parker, and spoilers, right?
Well, and Tony did before he reveals himself, I am Iron Man.
And it's the first movie. It's the first Marvel movie. They're done with them at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
They're no longer a thing.
Yeah.
So, and where was Don Blake? So,
that's
right. We didn't even meet him. So I think it's interesting for the last over 10 years, they're just not even part of the discussion anymore. We live in a world where people who have secret identities, a lot of the times they're used for nonsense, right?
Yeah.
They're online with their secret identities.
Well, that's true. Yeah, certainly a lot of online people have their personas that are different from their real life personas. I'm with you.
And when you talk to like my students, and we would refer to like even like building your career up, and we just say, well, you have to join social media and like make a presence. Some people are horrified by that idea because you're like joining a bunch of like masked bandits who are literally looking to just like mock you.
Yes.
That's what a secret identity is in this generation. Now we'll never apply that to the superhero genre, but that is the way people think about them. So for Superman to make this choice to let his go and just to be his truer self and to say to everyone, and by the way, the Clark Kent, that's the part of me that grew up here.
Sure.
That's the values I got here. You just didn't know that. That's my truth. That's something he really needed to say. So,
but also, and again, you've let me see the script. As someone, again, as another question for a reader would be that, doesn't he need to be Clark Kent for people to be their genuine selves around him as opposed to the Pope or Superman or any other important figure that, oh my God, I'm talking to Superman. I'm just not talking to another guy.
Superman has dealt with people talking to him as Superman his entire life. And I think I really wrote this sentence down. And as an older man, I think he has a better sense of how to handle that. And because his super senses, he knows who's elevated around him and who's being honest around him. So he's able to pivot the conversation to a healthy. I think he's great at it. This is something like I felt like as a man in my 50s, I can handle something embarrassing better than when I was 30.
What? Right, but I'm not talking about Superman. I'm talking about the civilians.
And I'm talking about civilians, but I'm talking about that Superman can handle it.
Well, yes, Superman, but I'm saying how
he would rather have them talk to him as his honest self.
Oh, I get that. But will they? Yeah, but I don't know if you know this story because it was on This American Life, and Michael Chabon wrote it, and it was all about Superman and Lois breaking up, and Lois taking a new human boyfriend, and it was all from his point of view. The story.
Yeah.
And do you know this story? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know the story. I haven't read it, but I do. Who told me about it? Yeah, go on.
It's great. Well, and I've only heard it on This American Life, kind of in this first-person narrative. And it was great. And the great thing was the guy loses his job, and Superman takes pity on him and makes him a sidekick. And they go to a Justice League meeting, and all the A-list heroes are in the meeting, and he's stuck with all the sidekicks. And Robin thinks he's hot shit compared to the other sidekicks. But, of course, the guy reminds him, you're in the room with us, you're not in the big room. And then finally, in the end, Lois breaks up with the human. He's bummed out. He decides to go to a bar. And he's like, oh, look who's there. The one guy I can open up to, Clark Kent. And he gets a little drunk. And he's like, Clark's this farm boy, but I don't know. He seems to understand people. And this great moment where he goes, I got a little drunk. And I started saying, man, if Superman were here right now, I would tell him you are nothing. Who the fuck do you think you are? That kind of tone. And he goes, and Clark, the good friend that he is laughing. And I took it as Clark's not laughing at the guy. He understands. And I mean, he's such a great person. And he's allowing this person to vent and be a good friend. And again, it's a position. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not saying certainly Superman can handle it, but it's these average people that, like I said, they're meeting the Pope or whatever iconic person that you're going to. Christ, if it's a Kardashian or whomever your god is, or Taylor Swift or whatever, it's like, fine. Nancy Pelosi. I mean, you're going to be on your best behavior, and you're not going to be your real self as you would be if Clark Kent, the Daily Planet reporter, wanted to know what was going on. I don't know.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I'm saying that the argument is that Clark gets to have real conversations. Like he knew that half the conversations you were having were like dishonest.
I understand.
Right?
No, I hear what you're saying.
So now he knows that whatever it is, it's honest. It's the honest reaction to him, and that's what he wants, and he's earned it.
I understand where he's coming from and feels like he's been lying with this secret identity, and again, he represents truth, and I think it's very poetic that you're using that as your title. It makes sense. But yeah,
well, we'll see. Here's what happened.
It happens in the story, So
you're talking about the one story that you've already read that has already been told that you liked. Yes. And for 80 years or whatever, those stories have been told.
Yeah.
So here we have a grand opportunity now
100%.
to tell brand new stories with this character and this perspective. And that is like, literally, you don't know what the next conversation between Superman and Batman is going to be.
Absolutely.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes, it is. No, absolutely, man.
We've seen it all. What is Wonder Woman going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. No.
What is Lex Luthor going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Better than that, what is Toyman going to do? Seriously, I'm telling you. Like, of all the shit that's come out of here, and that's why, like we got together, me, Greg, and Matt, and we were like coming up, and all of a sudden, something for Toyman came out that was so exciting that they were like, it was worth it just for that.
Hey, that's awesome, seriously, yeah. and I agree with you that there are literally hundreds of stories to tell. This was not to pick on it, but this was the missed opportunity with Civil War and Spider-Man, and we had that great news conference. And flashing to all of these people in Peter's life, both enemies and friends, and their reactions as this was all happening. And then the genie gets stuffed in the bottle within, a year, whenever one more day was.
And having been through this with Daredevil, I what I found out, like in the second year of that, is when you really find stuff that you would have never found if you hadn't pulled this pin, right?
Sure.
There's the genuine shock of the moment, and then everybody settles in, and then the actual alchemy of the characters and really them kind of just dealing with the new reality comes in, and new story starts to evolve, and that gets so exciting. And that happened with this even faster, right? And it just revealed to me like how flimsy the pin of the grenade was, like how much people didn't like
Sure.
how it was standing in the way of a lot of writers who wanted to tell some Superman stuff, right? And the minute we took it off, I mean, wait till you see what Greg has planned for you guys. Holy Lord.
Interesting. And everything will change. All these relationships will change.
Yep.
And let's have that opportunity throughout the DC universe to tell these stories. And you're right. No, he is the example. He's the leader, or he's the chief antagonist to the villains. And it's like, yeah, what do you do when the status quo changes? No, I think I get it. I mean, literally, I went from these initial questions that I'm asking you now, as you know, in Portland, to, although when he does reveal, I mean, from, the first moment and stuff, how his personal life can change, and I'll let people read it and stuff, obviously in the stories, it's like, well, that's kind of interesting, and it didn't occur to me initially when you said this, because at first I'm like, no, he needs a secret identity. Of course he does. But again, the more I thought about it, like you said, these other stories kind of started to bloom around me, and I'm like, oh yeah, those are interesting directions.
Well, let me say this too, and I meant to even open with this, and I said it to the New York Times. I doubt it'll make the piece, but I wrestled. We all did with announcing this, like we are, which is spoiling it.
Sure. Yeah.
I personally don't like the spoilers, and I have fought against them in some areas, sometimes to my sales detriment, that the point is to surprise you. In this instance, I gave this a lot of thought. In this instance, the announcement of what he's doing is the reason we want you to come see what we're doing. The surprises is inside the book. The surprise isn't
the announcement
that he does it. It's how he does it and what the reactions are.
Sure.
And there are dozens and hundreds coming. There are emotional ones right away. And so I guess I feel less. I just wanted people who feel the way I feel about spoilers to know that we took this very seriously. In my heart, we haven't spoiled it yet.
Right.
If that makes
I know what you mean.
You'll have to see it to see, but you've read it, so you know. So we'll see when we get there. Hey, Sean, it's Elisa Bendis.
Yay!
She's coming in with I just talked about. I'm now tasting the chili for Friday.
Oh, nice.
Tell me what it needs.
I wish I could.
It's a home run.
I wish I could.
Do you like it?
It's a little it's got a little punch, but I like the punch.
More cumin.
Okay.
Right? More punch than she usually does.
More cumin?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Hey, buddy, seriously, I had a great time.
It's
Thank you again. I can tell you on the podcast right now.
Yeah, you're on the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Love you.
And the breathing is our dog following her around with the
Of
chili.
course,
That's not
man.
bad.
They smell the food. They know what's going on.
All right. Anyway, sorry about that.
No, that's it.
Chili break.
That's excellent.
I'd like to be a comic writer while your wife comes in at midnight and gives you a spoonful of
chili. That's fantastic, man. Absolutely. Hilarious. No, I agree, man. You're right. The incident itself is just the opening of the story. It's how everybody reacts. That's the real punch of the story.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I thought, normally the 700 times it's been on the cover of the issue, it would be like a spoiler, but because it's real, because it's the new truth of the character, it's the opening argument.
Yeah,
not a spoiler.
Yeah.
So
no, it's
see how he does it, see why he does it, and so people who really need to know. If you read the Unity saga, you can. Here's the story of what happened with Clark and his father and his son, and how that all came together, and why he finds himself at this crossroads. Issue 17, which is drawn by Kevin McGuire, he kind of teased it up a little bit. And then in issue 18, he does it. And then from issue 18 on, that is the truth of Superman. It will pour into Superman in Action Comics in every issue, and then it will pour out across the books as they go.
And do you have 2 specials?
Yes, thank you. So right after issue 18 of Superman ships, the next month we're going to have the first of 2 giant-size specials that are in the same vein as the Superman Leviathan Rising special, where it's all the writers of the Superman office contributing to the special. The difference is this one, it's actually going to be less me in these pages and more Matt, Greg, and Jody Hauser.
Oh, great!
I'm going to do a bunch in there, but in the Leviathan special, I did a big chunk of the work with little guest spots by them, and in this instance, it's going to be more evened up. I told particularly Matt and Greg, who had been by my side through this whole thing, that I have literally hundreds of pages of Superman to write. Where I can dive into all of this. If you have things you need to express here about Superman and the DC universe, dive in. This is like go nuts. And Matt wrote 22 pages of the most beautiful shit he's ever written, like so quickly, like so many. Some are hilarious, some are emotional. I can't wait for everyone to see. So the first one is called Superman Heroes, and it'll be focused on all of his peers and the people who've looked up to him reacting, some to his face and some separate. And then that will be drawn by Brian Hitch. And then the next one is villains, and that's obviously all the antagonists in his life, both Super and Clark Kent also had antagonists in his life.
Sure.
And so then that'll be drawn by Kevin McGuire.
Are you ever going to bring back Brad from the movies? You know what I'm talking about.
No, but everyone wants, already people have got a sense of what this is, want me to bring back Chaz.
Oh, well, of course.
And there may be a version of the press conference where he says, I'm really Chaz, and Lois leaves him. No, I'm joking.
And he kinks up his hair.
Yeah. I found my true self. This is me. Love me.
And puka shells suddenly pop out on his chest. Hilarious, man. Brad was from Smallville, and he's in the first.
That's right.
Movie, and he's in the third movie as an adult with what's her face is Lana Lang and Ed O'Toole, and and it's great because it's great Clark.
Oh, that Brad!
Yes.
You're hilarious, Brad from the Donner movie.
Yes, and the bowling alley and everything. Yes,
the helmets. Yeah. We have some truly beautiful Smallville stuff that was both Matt and Greg's idea. That's coming in this special.
Oh, that's great.
Both of them had a surprising take.
That's excellent. That's
fantastic. Both of them.
Oh yeah, how does Smallville react knowing that? That's a good question. See, and I want to see that.
Not Brad surprising, but surprising nonetheless. And Jody Hauser will be reflecting Supergirl's view as well. She is the new writer of Supergirl.
Yeah, I'm so excited for her, and she's a sweetheart. I met her in San Diego a couple years ago and had a nice conversation. Great. And I talked a little bit with her at Rose City, and she's doing Star Trek. So Jesus, man, plus creating faith and all that stuff, and what she's done for Valiant. No, I'm really glad she's getting a more active role in the DC universe. I think that's great, and especially she'll be great on Supergirl. I'm sure she will.
Totally.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And then look. So
I gotta say, and I said before, this is an enormous responsibility. Some people online think we do these things willy nilly.
Sure.
Because you come online one day and a choice has been made, right? And it just looks like it's happened, right? And the reason, come on here and talk about it is to describe how, oh no, this went on for like a year. This was discussed and debated and walked through and thought about and considered. And, when it gets to a place where no one's saying no and everyone's going, ooh, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that's, and I know some people online think that I'm like sometimes surrounded by people who don't say no to me, which is hilarious. And, but no, we made a good argument here, and I'm really, really, really happy Dan and Bob and everybody went with it. I really did. I really liked it. It felt, honestly, similar to when Joe said yes to Ultimate Spider-Man 13.
Uh-huh.
It was like, you get me. You're not scared of anything.
That's good.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, and again, and that's why, again, that initial reaction, I could see a teenager, like you said, making that choice and also possibly mistake. But again, and also I read, like you said, I've read 18 and 19. I understand Superman's argument for doing this, and I think when people read the story, they'll understand it more as well. But yeah, you are likely, as this is being released, I'm sure there's a lot of people going, "What the fuck are you doing?" Of course, Clark Kent needs to be a secret. How else would he again relate to the world, world? How else would the world be comfortable enough to relate to him? And again,
right.
This does change the status quo, and it does. It makes a very interesting, different DC universe on every level.
That I actually think that I wrote this down, that Superman is to a point where he thinks they respond to him more as Superman than they do as Clark Kent. Because he's the most truthful version of himself, and they can feel it.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Well, we'll see, and we'll see as you tell your story how his life interacting with normal humans changes, as well as his relationships with the heroes and villains.
Yep.
And it's going to be it's interesting. And man, I'm for the full commitment, as I was more so with Spider-Man Civil War in terms of.
And if there is any reference to Tootsie in the script, it's because I spend most of my life standing next to Matt Fraction, who would not stop doing the joke. That is one nutty newspaper. But I'll tell you what's aging very well that I started rewatching, and my daughter, I tweeted about this actually because it was exciting to introduce my teenage daughter to something that blew her away, and it was Community. TV
show. That's great.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's 10 years old.
Yes, you're right.
And,
wow.
Yes, and but you go. It's from the creator of Rick and Morty, and it stars Donald Glover. That already is like the coolest thing you've ever heard. And then you watch the show, and it's amazing, and it's aging very well.
That's great, man. No, and that is kind of relief that it does.
And the meta stuff is even more meta. Like the Chevy Chase. Now that we know what a monster Chevy Chase was, holy shit, is that show fun.
That's great to hear.
My favorite thing that I'm watching right now.
Tell me.
Secession. Secession is as ballsy as anything that's ever been on anything. You don't even know what genre it is for the first 4 episodes. It's brilliant on numerous levels. And it speaks to only the world we live in right now. Like 5 years from now, who knows what it'll be like. But for right now, it's a perfect show.
Oh, I hear you on that standard level. And, I have to confess, have not made time for Succession, and it's a broadcasting story and a journalism and media story. So and I think great actors. Yeah.
For those who don't know, and those who blew it off because they thought it was like a Dynasty show, because it kind of sold like Dynasty, it's a comedy produced by Will Ferrell. It is so fucking funny. But it's like Springtime for Hitler. Like, it takes you like literally hours to go, oh my God, it's a comedy.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a comedy. I assumed it was a dramatization of kind of the Murdoch family dynamic.
It is a comedy. It is structured like a comedy. They set up every episode with its premise, and then they all go crazy.
I'm gonna have to watch it. It
is brilliant. It is. It is just ridiculous and over the top, and it works on like 6 different levels.
That's cool. The Mighty Gemstones, or whatever the family is called.
Yes.
You and I watched the first few episodes together. I really dug it.
I know. Well, we did too. And I told you, my wife loves the show, but it's a comedy style she doesn't care for. And I was really like shocked how much she liked it. And I went, oh my God, she's a rabbi's daughter.
Of course she can. Yeah.
And of course, for those who've seen the show, in no way does that reflect my wife's truth on any level, but just the idea of, the family of religious people, that was funny that she reflected on it.
Yeah, it's for people who weren't paying attention, it's a mega church family, and it's a Danny McBride. He stars in it, and it's his production, and it's got what's his face from Workaholics, of course, Adam, whatever his name is.
But it's as good as Eastbound and Down. It probably is better than Eastbound and Down, like technically, but it's a really, really strong outing.
Yeah, and John Goodman is amazing in it. The whole cast is, and the daughter is fantastic, and I don't know her name, that actor, but everybody's amazing in it. It really is funny, and it's.
And by the way, that is another example of the kind of comedy that could be made that you said wouldn't be made today. That's a very, very edgy comedy.
Oh no, but what I'm saying,
all over the place, it just only speaks to the world we live in right now.
Right, and
it's a different things to poke fun.
Oh no, and I agree with that. But no, and my only point about Tootsie is really just the basics of a man, pretending to be a woman, and it did try to say some things, obviously, about differences of the sexes and the way they're treated and stuff like that. But I think there would be outrage.
Watch the documentary on Tootsie. It's
I would. And, come on, Nora Ephron, genius. I mean, obviously Bill Murray's amazing. Jessica Lange is amazing. Everyone, Debbie Coleman. The whole cast is, Charles Durning, who gets the Oscar next year or gets nominated for To Be or Not to Be, which is, I love Mel Brooks, but I don't like that movie. I like the Lubitsch movie, the original. Of course. Yeah. Really it was, they blew it with Tootsie. Let's give him the nomination for To Be or Not to Be. Charles Durning.
Well, if you watch a Tootsie documentary, it's one of those documents of really troubled creative people. It's not pleasant. It's interesting.
Oh, okay. Man, is it on YouTube or is it just on the...
famously ripped each other's faces off filming that whole movie. The whole movie's a fight.
Interesting.
And and that's why Sidney Pollock's in the movie as the agent, because that's the level of fighting they were doing. And then he was trying to get that level of performance from him, and he goes, "You're the only one that gets me this mad."
Fantastic.
So that's why he did the role.
Interesting. Yeah. Is it only on the disc or is it on YouTube or whatever?
Probably on YouTube. Probably everything's.
That's true too. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Legion. Let's do Legion.
Yes, please.
Oh, I should have sent you Legion too.
Oh, that's okay, man. It's we'll get to. When does it come out? When does Legion come out?
November soon. It just went to print today, so I'm a little. If I seem a little hyper, I'm literally having a low grade creative anxiety attack, because anytime you release the first issue to the printer, that's it, it's done, nothing you can do now, and this is one I've been picking at for 9 months.
Yeah.
So it's I literally today it was really funny because it's happened a few times in my career, and I'm old enough to handle it. But when someone kind of gently just pulls it out of your hand, not in a mean way, just it's time.
Sure.
You can tell, I'm annoying everybody. It's time to wrap it up. All right,
you can't be Warren Beatty recutting Bulworth and everything. I'm hip. Yeah.
Yes, I clearly I could is what I'm saying, and so I'm grateful that I've saddled myself to a medium that doesn't allow it. So the book's done on deadline. So
Well, what you've set up so far, and what we know about John's future with the Legion and what he is capable of doing, it sounds really intriguing. And is he right there in issue 1?
Oh yeah, right away. It goes right from what happens in Superman 16 right to the. I posted it today. There's artwork of him meeting them right away.
Okay, and
he is our walk-in character. He's the guy who doesn't know anything.
Sure.
So we're following him as he visits a future 1,000 years removed from the one he lived in.
And just as intriguing as what you're proposing to do with Clark and his secret identity, all of a sudden now the new Legion stories become interesting possibilities because with the change. And now, John is a new character, and even though he is, they know his destiny, I suppose? Or are they, this is all kind of happening.
We're going to get into that. But you'll see in the very first issue, one of the big stresses is, why did they pull John out of the timeline? You get the sense of, they invited him, but there's something happened here, and we're going to find out why.
Okay.
And for those who know that there's stuff happening, there's a lot of hinting and rumors going on online, and also my boss going on stage and showing things to people. that people know that there's some really cool stuff coming down the line. And like the Superman thing, Legion and what happens in Legion, what happens on the last page of Legion, number one, is a reflection of that new DC magic.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, as we've talked,
and again, I'm saying in a way not to spoil because I'd like you to see it and to think about, what does that mean? Oh, yeah.
No, that's exciting. And honestly, I as I've said a million times, there were two doors in the 70s, the X-Men door and the Legion door. And I happily went through the Legion door and never looked back.
I got to say, and it was Fraction who feels the same way about this as you and I, who said, oh, my God, you're doing Legion and Hickman's doing X-Men. Like that, that's so funny. It's for those of us who know, it just happened that way, right? Yeah. And those of us who know our history with this stuff, that's kind of cool. Now, I will say, I hope I can get some of the audience to give me a few issues on Legion. Legion has so much stuff that you just can't get to all of it in the first issue. You just can't. And there's a lot of people talking, and there's still a lot of people not. And we're going to get to all of them, and it's all amazing. It's going to take a few issues. It's not a slow build. It's just a lot to build.
Well, there's a lot of characters, obviously.
Yeah, it's a lot of characters, and we're diving in we're diving in head first. And I did that because I thought Legion fans, of which there are thousands, who've been waiting patiently, sometimes with not even a clue of a hint that something's coming. And when I would be online, just as a DC writer, there were all these Legion fans just waiting, hoping one day it could happen. Yeah. So they've been waiting, some of them 10 years.
Totally.
For this moment. So we go in right deep right away. So people can really celebrate that feeling that they've been missing. And then we're going to pull back and get to know the characters more.
Okay, so in that first issue, is it kind of a gloss over of the 40-plus Legionnaires or whatever that you're dealing with?
No, it's kind of like, here's the world. Here's who we are. Here's what we're doing. Here's where we live. Here's how it is. Here's what we're up against. And here's the MacGuffin, right? Okay. And then slowly but surely, we're going to find out. We find out a lot about Ultra Boy in the first issue.
Oh, great.
We're going to find out a lot about, slowly but surely, you find out about quite a few of them. You find out who's dating, who's with who. That's where I'm getting. And it's funny, as much as you think I'm going to take some pounding for the Superman thing, and of course I will. I know I'm going to take 5 times the pounding for even hinting that Cosmic Boy and Shadow Lass are a thing.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
How dare you?
Oh, I'm going to hear it.
How dare you? You are smearing it in Mon-El's face, the greatest Legionnaire. How fucking dare you? I'm teasing.
I think we talked about this in person. We talked about in the podcast how surprising I was about some of the public's perception of Mon-El. Did we talk about
No, not
this?
at all. And I love Mon-El. He's and I say Mon-El. I mean, that's, it's like, hey, man.
I pronounce
you can say Mon. It's all right. Millennium. It's all right. I'm not going to give you shit about it. It's all right.
Okay, just for those of you who made fun of me for how I pronounce millennium, I told some of my friends this, and Fraction, I think, turned to me and goes, "Oh, I thought you were pronouncing that as a joke. That's how you pronounce it?"
Dude, I did too. As I told you and Elisa, he's fucking with me, isn't he? He's got to be fucking with me. Come on.
It's a Cleveland accent. And Ad Astra. There was another word my kids scream at me when I pronounce it wrong. So
what's wrong with Ad Astra? What should it be?
I think it's Ad Astra. And I go, Ad Astra.
Oh, please. Yeah, I know. Well, that's Midwest, Chicago. Same thing. Hey, nice Ad Astra over there. Nice Ad Astra over there, lady. Over by there.
The romance.
Tell me about Mon-El. Yeah. Talk to me.
Oh yeah, Mon-El. So Mon-El has, my Mon-El and the feeling I have about Mon-El from all my Legion reading, right? And, but when we put out that I was doing Legion, I got like a dozen people went, ew, Mon-El. Like of all the 40 Legionnaires, they saw Mon-El and went, ew. And I went, what? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? And then I found out it's like Supergirl, the CAD who plays Mon-El on Supergirl.
Right.
he has completely tainted the waters on how people perceive Mon-El. He's considered quite the cad now. And I was like, oh, like that's interesting. So yeah, that was one I didn't know. So we're gonna have some fun with
that. And again, as a Daxamite, they are the Romulans to the Kryptonians, Vulcans, if you will.
Yep.
And so you could see a kind of more aloof. I'd accept that. It's a shame though, because one of my favorite things of when they did the new Krypton story even more than 10 years ago. And it was James Robinson and Greg Rucka and everybody doing Superman. I loved that idea of while Superman was on New Krypton, he gave Mon-El the serum so he could be in the 20th century. And he's like, I need you to take over. And it's like, oh, wow. And being this fan, going back to the Superboy and Legion stories, and really that Mon-El was always kind of this older brother to Superboy. He's always been my favorite. I know Colleen Doran adores Mon-El, one of her favorite Legionnaires.
100%. No, I do too. No, I love
that. No, it's cool.
That's like one of my favorites, and I made a note to myself: don't lean on him too hard. No. Sometimes when you like a character like Luke Cage,
sure.
you can lean on a character to prove that character's merits to the detriment of others, and on a team of 7 Avengers, it can really.
Did you feel
show.
It got that way?
Imagine what it looks like
upon reflection. Did you think it got that way?
No, I didn't. No. I found I caught myself, but every once in a while I would see a scene where I go, you know what I mean? Did I give everyone equal shit?
Okay.
Like every writer. By the way, every writer of a team book, when we get together, this is what we talk about. There's a unique language to team books.
Go on.
It's almost like a live anthology that's going on, all at once. And we're all aware of in generations past or other books where a writer will have forgotten to give Colossus anything to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I have been guilty of that too. So when you see it, once you're aware of it, you never want to do it again. And you can get away with it because if the thing you're doing in the foreground is interesting, that's all that matters.
Yes.
But as a writer, you want to make sure all your characters are getting their perspective met and whatnot. And yeah, sometimes, Colossus doesn't have anything to do with this. There's nothing for him to do here. But you should at least go through the scene from every character's perspective and make sure that the most unique thing is being
100%, man. Yeah, they should each be having their own individual adventure as much as you can convey that through the team dynamic. Or at least the reactions. And honestly, for a moment on Luke Cage, I like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern relationship he and Spider-Man had. Where, can you believe this shit? No. And it's like, the two street guys kind of dealing with it,
You find these little magic things, and then you find no one else had, then you lean into it. And that's talk about, a little goes a long way.
I'm with you. But, honestly, and again, I have no idea what you're going to do getting back to Mon-El. But that's why it's like, I'm really looking forward to John and Mon-El conversations.
Exactly. Now, here the one thing I wanted to offer too on the Legion thing that I'm for people who've never read Legion before, like at all, and I have a ton of people on my feed like, all right, I'm hopping in.
Yeah.
Always wanted to give it a shot. Hope it's there. We've added something to the language of our comic that is different. We have something called Fritchman tags. And so they have a technology in Legion where if you walk up to them, a little pop-up shows up on their shoulder, tells you exactly who they are. Now, you remember Matt Fraction did something like this in his X-Men run.
Yes.
Where they were called dad tags. And every X-Men show up and there'll be like 3 words that describe this X-Men.
Yes.
Anything Matt's dad would need to know about the X-Men, that's what he called them, dad tags. Anything I need to tell my dad so he could enjoy this is what they called them.
Sure.
I love the dad tags so much. I went, oh my God, I love them. He gave me permission to steal them. He said, I'm giving you my dad tags. And I was like, even though you have given them to me, it still feels to me hacky to take them. They're yours, right? And for years, I've like, I wish I thought of the dad tags, right?
Yes.
And then when we got to Legion, I said to Matt, I think I can do the dad tags, but they're actually like in the art.
Yeah.
Like it's for them, but it's also for us.
Yes.
Like John needs to know which one's Cosmic Boy and which one's Ultra Boy, right? So when he walks up to them, their little like symbols pop up and little information like pops up that he needs, right? And he goes, "Oh, great!" And they're called the Fritchman tags. So that's Matt's real name. So hilariously, the word Fritchman shows up in dialogue more times than Saturn in the first issue of Legion.
Hilarious.
So the good news is that it adds to the reader-friendly aspects of it. It looks like it might be a technological nightmare that I've created, but it is a lot of fun. So you get a little like tags floating around the art all the time. So if you're ever lost on who's talking or need a catch up, it's right there.
So are your artists drawing it, or is it happening with the lettering and the production and stuff like that?
God bless Dave Sharp, because I literally dropped like a nightmare in his lap, and we did like 75 versions of it to make it look good in the artwork.
Oh, that's great.
Because it also has to flow with the artwork. It has to look like something you'd actually want to see.
Sure.
You know, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it later because they're going to hack each other's tags and, goof on each other and, practically joke them and stuff. So, but it's a very lively and fun way to, just be additive and get exposition in there that's not, bogging down a plot.
I'm with you. No. It's great. And of course, 90s fans will remember pop-up videos. So, even better.
The pop-up videos or DAG tags. It's the Legion tags you've always seen in the Legion art, but now it's in their world. It's not just for us.
Yes.
That's the best way to say it.
No, and I think that's it fits the futuristic motif as well. I think that's good. No, I like that.
And the art is that within the galactic conversation that hostility comes from ignorance. And that if everyone knows everyone's information, that everything gets more social. Everyone gets it's a much easier way to communicate.
Interesting, and also that plays out as well in the Superman books, as I've read, in terms of how the alien world. Do you not want me to say that, or is that okay?
No, you can go ahead.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, I won't go into detail, but I think the galactic world continues to evolve in the pages of Superman, and not just with the Rogol incident and obviously the crimes of Jor-El, but I like.
We're past that now, and from the sins of Jor-El and Rogol, we've created the United Planets in modern day. So you're actually something I'm actually very charmed about. If I can be excited for a second about my own work, is the ability to tell the story of the United Planets on day 1 and year 1000.
Yes. Yes.
At the exact same time is a pretty funky, cool thing to do.
That's cool. No, I think that's great. And it makes for a more tightly knit DC Galactic universe in ways that hadn't been explored before or very rarely touched upon. So I think that's cool.
And it's just one of those parts of Ivan's artwork and his DNA. The Rand Thanagar War is like one of the best drawn comics at DC. And so there's a Sinestro comics that he did.
Yes.
Ivan is just a brilliant sci-fi artist, and I do find myself pulling Superman out into space because of it often. He's just amazing at it. And speaking of Ivan, if you can go back to Superman 18 for a second. Sure. You've seen some of it.
I have.
Ivan has, I'm in the middle of a moment with an artist. He has stepped up to draw Superman 18, and it's the best thing he's ever done. It's just so beautiful, and every little moment and nuance and character is just all there, and everyone who's seen it is blown away. And I just love him and Joe Prado and Alex Sinclair so much, and when I handed in the script, and the reaction to it was everything you'd ever want out of comics. It really, I literally say, what more could you want?
Well, Brian, I told you,
to have your collaborators so inspired and so on their game and so ready to come with you on a scary journey. Yeah, it's so great. So I can't wait for you.
Yeah, the pages you showed me, along with the script and stuff, and I told you, hey man. And no disrespect meant to the people that, like, either at panels or even on the DC Universe daily talk show, when they talk about stories and they get a little misty-eyed when they talk about it. That scene that you showed me that Ivan that drew and everything, I was moved to tears. I really was, because I've known these characters forever, and it's a great moment, and I'll keep it, blank.
Yeah, you can keep it yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone who's seen it said to me, "That's a silent page, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is."
And it's so.
But it was my friend saying, "Don't ruin it with your words."
No, but and again, this has been a hallmark where you're like, no words necessary, let the art tell the story, and it is. It's a great. These are great character moments, and I always point to Hickman. One of my favorite silent moments that he had in Fantastic Four after Johnny dies, and the Thing has Thor, the Hulk, and I forget who else, maybe Hercules or something like that. Just like he gets to pound the shit out of him to get out his anger and frustration, and he's sobbing on the Hulk's chest when it's done, and you get it, and it's like, of course he is. Like, who else would understand what the guy's going through? So no, it's that kind of emotional moment, and it's rare for someone 50 plus years has been reading this shit since he was 4. But it's like, and again, with Jeff with Rebirth, when Barry and Wally, how could I forget you? And it's like, oh yeah, man, it's like, no. And Ivan and Joe reached that moment, and I'm sure Alex's colors. You showed it to me in black and white, but it's it's beautiful, man. No, it's great. Now I have a question because Ivan's Brazilian. Now I've talked to Joe at length. And I didn't realize that Ivan was as, English first, because, obviously, unless your script is translated for him or something like that. I don't know.
No, he can speak English, and but it's very broken, and there's very few people I work with who speak English as their first language, actually. So it's been that way for so long that honestly, it's been that way for so long that I rarely even think about it, but the whole process of how we make comics is set up for this. So translators and whatnot, and like Sarah Pacelli always thought she never spoke enough English, but I always understood her perfectly. You know what I mean?
That's cool. And again, because I like when I see Ivan and Joe and my buddy Rod Rice even as well. 3 great Brazilians and stuff, and I love talking to all of them. And I have long conversations with Joe and Rod because, again, I can tell how comfortable they are in speaking. And Ivan's always great. He's a sweetheart, and he's always really nice when I see him.
Oh, yeah, you have not had him on the show. I should talk to him about
it'd be my pleasure because
it's really interesting too. You should,
because Rod and Joe have been on and stuff, and we've had great conversations. And also, I always tease them about Shusha. Remember Shusha?
What was Shusha?
Shusha was that kids' morning show host, the hot blonde, and she was in hot pants and thigh-high boots. And it was
Was it Brazilian?
Yes, and she was John F. Kennedy Jr.'s girlfriend for a long time.
Oh!
And she married Pele. And now, today, in her 40s or 50s, she's the Ellen DeGeneres of Brazil. And she's still a big celebrity and everything. And they love that I'm fast. Well, especially Rod laughs all the time. He's like, I can't believe that you want to talk. I'm like, all right, it's time for a Susha update. What's she been doing lately? Because it was the weirdest show. I'm sure there's videos on YouTube. They would have tons of screaming kids. She'd be singing a song in her hot pants, and she's a lovely woman, and her thigh-high boots, and she's singing some sort of kid song, and these kids are just screaming and waving international flags. And there's dancing furries, giant people in furry costumes. And seriously, me and my buddy Cam McWhorter, who writes for the Wall Street Journal, it's like, this is the weirdest fucking kids show we've ever seen. And as we got ready for work, we'd laugh our asses off about it. What's that?
Are furries still a thing? Tweet me if they are.
I think they are. Lisa Ling exposed them on her CNN show a year or two ago, which cracked me up.
Well, that's a year or two.
That's true.
I was curious, like someone brought up like the bronies and these things that kind of flitter into the convention world and then flip out. And I was just curious.
I'm sure we missed all the Dragon Con furry action this year once again. I have no doubt. Anyway.
Or is it evolved into something else? I'd be curious to know. I was just
But
curious.
for people who are curious, XUXA is how you spell Shusha. And it's just this weird Brazilian TV thing. They made fun of it on the Simpsons episode in Brazil as well.
Yeah, I mean, I literally remember this. Yeah, that's but what a pull.
Anyway, all right. So we covered Mon-El. You know, you mentioned Doomsday Clock earlier. It was sad to see, and obviously it has to make room for the new status quo. But man, when Saturn Girl dusted, very in her Thanos way of disappearing in Doomsday 11.
I cannot speak of Doomsday Clock until it is completed.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, man.
I swear to God.
Well, that's.
I just, you know what? I like.
It's Jeff's story. I get
even
it.
Accidentally, you and I have accidentally slipped a couple. Like I've slipped, not you, but I've not even remembering what's a spoiler because sometimes I'll hear a story like a year ago.
I hear you.
And then I forget that no one else has heard the story yet, right? And then I don't know where everyone else is in their telling of it. So I'm excited to talk about it once it's over.
Okay.
But I read talking about Tom King's Batman or all the things I know that I don't want to accidentally even use the wrong pronoun and spoil.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. God, I had, and I'm sure listeners know already, but for people who do just come in for the Bendis tapes, because I do see the numbers jump, I had a great conversation with James Tucker about DC animation, and I really...
Oh, yeah.
And I love James. And I get frustrated... This is me saying this. I get frustrated at press junkets when the focus is really on the product at hand, and the PR people are really, policing it and going, hey... You're here to talk about Wonder Woman Bloodlines, nothing else. So honestly, I stopped going to the press junkets,
right.
and luckily, James is in a position now where he can talk freely and make his own decisions of who he talks to and he doesn't. And I mean, God, he and Mike Jelenic, when they were doing Batman Brave and Bold, introduced themselves to me, and we had a great conversation then. And I've only had sporadic 10-minute or 5-minute things with James since in these press junkets. So it was really great to talk to him about the evolution of DC animation because, he was working with Bruce Timm and Dini and Alan Burnett and all the Batman animated series people.
I think it's among the most important cultural things we've been alive for.
Agreed, but I also think that the evolution of the product since is really, really interesting. And I don't have...
Couldn't agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun. So it's give me the perspective of where you guys started and where you are now. And it's a really fun conversation. So yeah, if you people have missed it, it's on the feed. Look for it, James Tucker and the evolution of DC animation. And I think a lot of interesting things have been happening there. And truly, as you know, this is why I appreciate when we talk about the big picture and when you're able to. I'm not here to fuck up anybody's marketing plan.
Oh yeah, no. I know that, and I'm more worried about accidentally fucking up.
I'm with you. Stuff. No. And hey, man, DiDio himself. I mean, and this is years ago. Talked about how he was really excited about Batlash coming back when Aragonis and I forget who collaborated with him on the new Batlash. And Levitz is like, what the hell are you doing on the podcast spoiling our planets? And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. All right.
That was a solid.
I've been doing Dan to his, as you know. I mean, I don't know if I did it that night at your house or not.
I think you might
probably. And seriously, he's the best sport about that. And God, hey, by the way, I'm not going to have a chance to talk to him before it comes out because he's so busy during Halloween season. But this Svengoolie DC Universe thing, I'm really glad it happened. And Rich Coe's Svengoolie is one of the nicest guys, and he's such a great Chicago success story. And really being this guy who is literally on this little UHF channel doing monster movies to getting a national audience. And I've seen at conventions... Not only Dan DiDio, who's a massive Svengoolie fan.
Massive fan, absolutely.
But comedians, and Joel Hodgson from Mystery Science Theater shakes Svengoolie's hand. I'm about to do a video interview with him. He's like, can I hold you guys off for a second? I'm like, absolutely. And he goes, I just want to tell you how much of an inspiration you were to us, to Sven. And he goes, and by the way, he's like, Jerry Seinfeld and so many of my A-list comedian friends think you're the greatest. And it was just like, Rich, isn't that cool, man? I'm like, you're literally Uncle Schmucky on the kids show doing the monster movies, and you're a fucking national icon now. Isn't that awesome? And it was great, and I'm so happy for him. And he is.
Well, why is your Svengoolie get all the national attention. Cleveland Superhost didn't get shit.
Yeah, the Ghoul.
Every city had a Svengoolie.
Was it the Ghoul or Goulart? No, Goulart was East Coast.
We had Goulardi and Big Chuck and Little John.
Oh, you did have Goulardi. I couldn't remember that he was Cleveland.
Yeah, we had Goulardi when I was a kid, and it transferred into Big Chuck and Goulardi, and then it was Big Chuck and Little John for decades. I actually did that show.
Oh, wow.
That was one of the great moments of my life.
Wasn't the Ghoul also Cleveland or no?
Yeah, right? Is that the Ghoul?
I just the only time I would see him is when I'd visit, out of town cousins and stuff when I'd be in Cleveland or whatever.
Well, I got to tell you though, before you said every time we do this, there's a bump. Boy, that makes me happy. I'm so glad people tune in for this.
It's true,
and it really makes me happy because it is the best way I feel we communicate to each other, the audience. I feel this is the most, like, you read an article or get like a little press poll, that's some information, but the real deep context behind this stuff is more interesting, and I'm just so happy that people tune in to listen to that. And I feel I don't know, that the world's so fragmented lately. It's just so nice to be able to reach out and communicate about stuff at length.
No, and truly,
so it's very, very cool.
Well, it's my pleasure to provide the platform, but honestly, it's because people like yourself and James Tucker and all of our friends, Greg and Matt and Kel and everybody. It's great that you guys get it and use Word Balloon to your advantage to get your word out.
Well, also, and just, John's had to put up with a little bit of this podcast can sometimes feel like the Comedy Store, where people work out the material. Like, you had to listen to me do material I've done on this podcast on Seth Meyers, and I know you're like, but it's like they hear the good stuff and they ask me to do it, sure. Right? So. It's a compliment.
I take it as a compliment. I think it's fantastic.
100%. There's no other way to take it. It's a compliment. But I know in your heart you're like, I got that on tape already. Not at all.
So, no, and in fact, no, it is, and it's like, God, thanks for paying attention to my little fucking puppet show over here. Good Lord. I'm like, in fact, I was talking to a class of kids at a local college today, a podcast class, and I'm like, Scott Porter from Friday Night Lights listens to Word Balloon. And if I looked like Scott Porter, I would not be wasting my time listening to me. I would be having a great time out there. And I'm just like, what the hell are you doing, man? Stop it. I'm like, you're not allowed to And he's like, don't worry, I'm engaged. I'm like, then spend more time with your fiance. I'm like, because you shouldn't waste your time listening to my nonsense. But no, it's great. It's the big.
But everybody who doesn't look like him, tune in.
Well, there's as I told Brian Posehn, I thought for sure he was in the audience of a podcast panel, and it turned out it was somebody that looks like Brian Posehn. I'm like, Brian, no offense, but who the fuck else looks like you? You're so unique. He's like, oh, no, dude. I meet people who look like me all the time. And it's like, all right, I believe him. Anyway. Back to the Legion. Matter eat or lad.
Actually, I'm gonna have to bail soon because no I have to go write some Legion. I have actually a deadline tonight.
Oh, no problem.
But,
and it's late.
I wanted desperately to make sure that we talked Superman, because honestly, I didn't want to announce unless we talked about it, in a way people can really unpack the stress they may hear when they feel when they hear.
Well, and then when 18 and 19 come out and the specials, we could talk more about it, obviously, because then everyone else will be in on it. And, that could be February or something like that, or January.
No, we're going to talk next. We're going to talk Wonder Comics next round and Jinx World next round. That's what's coming next.
And when do those debut?
Big stuff. Then my next Jinx World book is going to first, The Power is graphic novel.
Yes, we got to talk about that, obviously, when it's ready.
Actually, let me say, because I'm actually I fucked up a little bit. So it's done. It's great. It's enormous. It's so big that we have to resolicit it. It's not the product that we solicit.
Wow.
So DC gave me a couple of choices, and one was be a jerk and put out the thing that isn't what you said, or resolicit it and say, is in celebration of Powers. This is also late. So, it's gorgeous. It's big. It's done. It's hundreds of pages long. We'll be putting it out, as soon as humanly possible. And then the next book, which will absolutely be on time, like all the other Jinx World books, will be out for WonderCon.
Oh, okay, great.
And that's the book I'm doing with Andre Lima, and I'm very excited.
That's cool. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and the only hint I will give to people like that is for people who've seen me work with Andre in both Legion and Young Justice the last couple months, and have seen his work online, know what a master illustrator he is and what a next level talent he is. I have taken it upon myself to stop what I'm doing and literally create a story that lets him just go fucking nuts because he's one of the greatest illustrators. And so, in the vein of Hardboiled, we're creating a story specifically to let the artists go bananas. And it is, one of the great joys. And we'll talk about it more next time we talk.
Very interesting. All right. Are we wrapping up? Is this my cue to,
I got it.
Oh, that's okay, buddy. No. We did good.
I got to roll. So it's only an hour and a half this time. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But the headlines are, Superman, thank you for getting me to a place where we could do this. Legion, oh my God, I can't believe it. And by God, of all the things in my life, I can't believe I'm getting to write Legion. As we put it to bed, I cannot believe it. I'm stunned. You think this feeling? I'm stunned that I'm writing Legion superheroes. I wrote this on Twitter the other day. I retweeted the Seth Meyers appearances about Legion, and then someone in my house said something about, hey, if you went back in time to when you were 12 years old, and wouldn't it just blow your mind? And I went, actually, if I went back to 2012 and showed them the clip of me on Seth Meyers, skinny, talking about Legion of Superheroes, and Miles Morales winning an Oscar. I had this vision of someone walking up to me with an iPad and showing me this. And me going, what the fuck? It's just nothing about it makes sense.
You're right.
To where I was in 2012.
I get it.
So even so anyway, so I guess I'm so grateful that my life journey has allowed that. That's a pretty amazing thing. So thank you to everyone for that.
That's awesome.
And, Legion, Superman, more Young Justice, Wonder Comics coming, and more Jinx World coming. And we actually have some pretty exciting movie and TV news coming down the pipe too. So we'll hop on when it's time for that
Outstanding.
too. But something that has had a 22-year journey may finally be coming its way.
Wow, I think I know what that is, and that's pretty amazing.
22 years and someone finally rolled up their sleeves. But if this happens, and actually whether or not this happens, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened behind the scenes with this, and it's going to blow your mind. It's one of the greatest creative stories ever. I can't wait to tell you this.
It sounds like we need Fortune and Glory volume 2, obviously.
Honestly, I may make a comic book of it. That's how big it was. Everyone who's heard the story has gone, holy shit. I'll pause. You can pause and I'll tell it to you right now, but I'll do it on the air when it's appropriate.
Well, you can tell me after we wrap up. That's fine. I mean, because
I will.
But no, as always, buddy, it's I'm thrilled. Thanks again for letting me get even closer to your world. It was a pleasure in Portland, and your family's delightful, and you guys couldn't have been the more consummate hosts that you were. So thank you very much, and and again we'll have another great conversation. But I think you've unpacked a lot, and like I said, man, Brian let me in on the kind of a little deeper into where we're going with Superman, and the incident really is just the start of the story. You're going to be pretty satisfied, I think, when you read the books. And, again, it will promote more conversation, which a provocative story should. And that should be comics' first job, is to make us think and talk.
And again, I know I said this earlier, but the spoiler thing, it rubs me, too. I've been sitting with it a lot. And because it will feel like a spoiler. When you hear it, it will, I know you heard it already. And it felt like a spoiler. And you just, I hope, listen, if you listen this long, you trust me on some level. Trust me, well, you'll see. So, but thanks.
Thank you, buddy.
Love you guys.
So there you go, man. You've heard Bendis' argument, and as he says, the reveal is only the initial event, and that the real story happens through 18 and 19 and beyond. I've read 18 and 19. They're pretty amazing. I haven't read 17 yet, which is coming out this month. So we'll get more setup leading to the big decision in December, Superman 18. All I can say is, man, I really enjoyed the script. And yes, I am biased. Brian is my friend. As I always point out, this is an entertainment talk show. This isn't pure journalism. I admit my bias when it comes to some of the creators that I've become friends with. It's a fun hang. And I think because they're comfortable with me, I get interesting conversation beyond whatever selling points they're trying to put out there. And Brian is no exception to that. And like I said, Brian considers the Bendis Tape his podcast as much as it is my podcast. And, he comes with things he wants to say. That's great, man. I'm cool with that. And, some people, oh, you're just a shill for Bendis. And I've already heard some of that on Facebook in particular. I laugh. It's my friend. I don't care. I don't get offended by stories that I may disagree with. I don't disagree with this story. I truthfully, when I first heard this, I played devil's advocate. I asked all the same questions that everybody is likely asking. How can you do this? How does he function without being Clark Kent? Doesn't he need to be Clark Kent to relate to humanity? I don't know. I read 18 and 19, and I understand the arguments where he's coming from. It's all going to come down to the execution. From Brian's standpoint and the rest of the DC writers and editors, that and what they do with this information. It is interesting, and it does begat so many interesting stories and story possibilities. I hope they do stick with it. It's okay after 80 years. We all know who Superman is. He doesn't need to be Clark Kent. What happens to that life, though? What happens to Smallville? What happens to the average people that Superman meets? Are they gonna relate to him more or even less? Because, like I said, I would think meeting Superman is like meeting the Pope. Meeting Clark Kent it's just a guy with questions. That's a big difference. And I look forward to how that's handled in the months ahead in Superman and Action Comics and at DC in general. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Word Balloon. As the story unfolds, we'll check in with Brian and find out more. But in the meantime, thanks for listening today. Happy to take any questions you have about this. John@wordballoon.com. Send me an email. We can talk more. I look forward to hearing what Brian thinks of the Joker movie. And I'm going to continue to disagree with him about Ad Astra. I liked it. I get the Apocalypse Now kind of shorthand. Oh, nothing happened. I get it. But I don't know. I just didn't see it that way. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's Word Balloon. Brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners via Patreon, my subscribers to Word Balloon via Patreon. Thank you greatly for your support. If you want to be one of them, Word Balloon is free, but if you want to help out the cause, is Word Balloon worth $1 a month to you? Is it worth the price of a comic book a month to you? If you can swing it, you're helping me out. WordBalloon.com. Click on the Patreon ad there, or go to patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners. Word Balloon also brought to you by Aftershock Comics. I will be talking to more Aftershock creators in the near future. I am hell-bent to get Joe Pruitt on this show and talk about his book Shock, but also talk to him about what he looks for in creators and the opportunities at Aftershock Comics. I mean, they've created a hell of a roster of writers and artists. And we're talking about people like Juan Doe and Marguerite Bennett, Garth Ennis, and Tim Seeley, and Ryan Kelly, and Phil Hester, and Chris Sabella, and Stephanie Phillip, and, of course, my dear friend Cullen Bunn, Tim Seeley, if I haven't already mentioned him. Tremendous creators, man, a murderer's row of genre-bending writers and artists that are putting out their best work. In the weeks to come, we'll be talking to more Aftershock creators. But don't wait for those conversations. First of all, you can find an archive of them here at wordballoon.com, but also go to their website. You'll find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on how to order their books through your local comic book store at aftershockcomics.com. Thanks again for listening. More great Word Balloons to come. I've already got a full week of interviews mapped out. Cannot wait to share with you some of the great, interesting subjects that we've got. Things from horror films and a look at Spider-Man. And also, hopefully, a great new talk with one of my favorite go-to Canadian creators. It's been a long time since I've had this guy on. If the moons and stars align, he'll be on as well at the end of this week. But until then, thanks a lot for listening. Listen to our other Word Balloon episode that I popped out today. A great look back at some great Drew Friedman conversations. Drew, one of my favorite humor cartoonists, and he's got a new book out called All the Presidents from Fantagraphics. He doesn't want to do any podcast interviews to support it, unfortunately, so I wanted to help him out and bring back some great conversations we had with some celebrity encounters and some of the funny things that Drew has drawn over the years. So that's our other podcast for today. Until next time, thanks for listening. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2019.